Come on, let's see what's happening. Let's get on the go with Tiffany Patton. On the go with Tiffany Patton.
Travel, beauty, fashion, entertainment, arts, fitness, celebrity interviews, and inspiring, engaging conversations with some of the best new and old music around. All this and more when you tune into On the Go with Tiffany Patton podcast. Now, here's your host, Tiffany Patton.
And we are live here at LeCrepe for the book signing, the official book signing for NYA B'S. She's an author, a therapist, and a speaker, and she has an amazing follow-up book here. It is called St. Louis, Michigan. Well, not St. Louis, Michigan. It is called 94th and RACINE-THE GROWth of Me by NYA B. And we are here with some of those who have come out tonight to hear some excerpts from her, to purchase the book, and to support her. And here I have with me
Idre Gode, a dear friend of NYA B, and then also her brother, the owner of LeCrepe.
Wow. Okay, so she is here live. Not only is she here to support, but she is a enthusiast to her work. She has her first book, and this is the follow-up. Why was it so important for you to be here in support of her and her second sophomore book?
Well, for me, NYA B, her journey to where she is now, I think it's a really important story to be told. Some of the hardships and trauma that she went through, as a young black, child and girl in Chicago. I think it's just really important for other, young adults, teens, to see that although, there may be some trials and things that you go through, that you can still be successful and you can still have a really fulfilling life. And so I think, with her journey and now being a therapist and really helping others to overcome some of that trauma and some of those trials and some of those hardships, whether it's, with the families or even in marriage or just even teen adults, just to support that in any way I can, because it's super important that we, instead of sweeping things under the rugs that maybe sometimes, we do as a community, particularly in the African American community, to be able to seek that help to becoming your best self.
And with you saying that, I wanted to ask you, and you almost answered it, how important is it, do you think, for us to be able to share our stories and our testimonies with others?
The thing is, you don't even realize how inspiring you are to other people just to be that transparent, because we hold so much in. We either think that we're the only one going through it, or nobody will understand, or you'll get judged by it. But what it does, it frees you. And then even sometimes saying it out loud makes you look at yourself in the mirror a little bit and say, okay, how can I, help myself? But then while you're doing that, you're helping others to be transparent and then to look at themselves in the mirror and do the same thing.
So basically, you're healing yourself as you're telling your testimony. Well, I thank you so much for being live here on The Go on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and iTunes, here for the official book signing for NYA B. She is an amazing author, therapist, and speaker, and we will be hearing more excerpts from 94th and Racine in just a few moments. You are live here with On The Go with Tiffany Patton, your link to Love, Life, and Liberty. We'll be right back.
24 Grill, located inside the Western Book Cadillac Hotel in Detroit, presents a casual approach to fine dining. For more information, call 313-964-3821 or visit the website at 24grill.com.
And we're back. You're listening to On The Go with Tiffany Patton, your link to Love, Life, and Liberty, live here on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and iTunes. And I have the owner of the beautiful LeCrepe here for the official book signing for NYA B. You have an amazing venue, and this is an amazing venue for a book signing. But I know you seem to be a person who only attaches your brand to a particular person. Why was it important for you to be the official location for NYA B's book signing?
Officially, she's a good person. I believe in the village, and I believe in making your village of those who congratulate those for succeeding. Unofficially, it's my sister. So there's not a world when I wouldn't help our family, and I believe that relationships are filled with thank you and you're welcomes. And that's the circle that I surround myself with, and those are the type of people I like to be around.
Now, how proud are you at some of the things that she's overcome over the years, and so much so that she's able to help other people?
I'm very proud. I tell her I'm proud of her about 3 times a week. She's a dynamic person, and to be a person that is one of my dear favorite people, because there was a time I didn't even like her. I didn't even like her. Her father told me if she gets hit by a car, I better lay down next to her. So we know who the favorite was. So, but
That's good, though. That's good parenting,
But-
I think. Well, that means that, it's me and you against the world.
but
Me and you against the world.
aside from being my sister, she's a dynamic person, and what her message resonates is we're all going to go through hard times. You can't continue to blame people. You have to be self-accountable and fix the problem. And so she paints a picture that no one's perfect. We all stumble, but it's the get up, but it's also fix yourself while you get up. And so she's become something of a mentor to me, and I do cope because of her.
Wow. NYA B. NYA B's brothers in the house. He did that. That was very nice. Although you at times didn't like her. And jealousy plays a big part in sibling rivalry.
Her dad. Last week, he walked into the book signing, walked right past me, and was like, "Where's Lady Bird?" And then he happened to turn around, and it was like, "Your son?" So he was like, "Oh, yeah, son, how you doing?" Okay.
I'm thinking he's feeling some type of way about this. I think we might need to get more therapy for you with this situation. And I think NYA B is the person who can do that for you. I think, more sessions. We are live right here on 94th and Racine. This book, now 94th and Racine are 2 streets in Chicago. And that is just the tip of the iceberg of what you will get within this novel. It is The Growth of Me by NYA B. And she can definitely, not only does she tell you how she's grown, she will be able to help you grow in your struggle of evolving and evolution, because we all need to do that. And she does that in an amazing way. And we'll have excerpts for her from her book in just a few moments. You're listening to On the Go with Tiffany Patton. You're linked to Love, Life, and Liberty right here on iHeart, iTunes, and Spotify. We'll be right back.
24 Grill, located inside the Western Book Cadillac Hotel in Detroit, presents a casual approach to fine dining. For more information, call 313-964-3821 or visit the website at 24grill.com.
And we're back. We're listening to the background sounds of, I don't know, does this sound almost like, is this, I wanted to say, is what, Q-Tip? Is this Q-Tip in the background?
I don't think this is Q-Tip.
No, not Q-Tip? Okay.
I think it's more old school than that.
Oh.
Knowing my brothers, probably.
Oh, okay. We're not going to start on him right now. We are here with the very beautiful, NYA B. We are here for her official book signing.
Thank you. Yes, we are.
94th and Racine. The Growth of Me. Okay, so when you say the growth of me, so many times we have different cliches, or, this is my year. I've grown. You won't see me, I've closed that chapter. I'm on to the next chapter. We use that so effortlessly in life. But I think for you, I would like to say that the growth of me is a short thing, to where there are places that you definitely will not revisit and that you've evolved from.
Absolutely.
So much so that you are able to assist other people. Tell us a little bit about, just a little bit of the backstory about some of the things that you had to overcome. Don't tell us all, because we want them to make sure you go get the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, The Growth of Me is a sequel to The Roots of Me. And so the 94th and Racine is a 3-part series, nonfiction, based on my life. First part captures ages between 6 and 18. And then The Growth of Me is from ages 18 to 28. And in The Roots of Me, you learn about how I developed. What was my foundation? My family, my friends, my trauma. Far too often, we don't want to acknowledge the fact that trauma and hurt and pain is also a part of our foundation. We take that with us as we grow.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how much of an impact it had on me until I left from those roots, till I broke away from those roots, and then I decided to go away. And that's when I leave and go to college, and then I started to grow up. You know?
Yeah.
When we become adults, we don't think about, you know, how are we going to behave once we're out there on our own, once we're out of our element. Our elements are safe for us.
Yeah.
But outside of that element, we don't know who we are. Okay? So when I left Chicago, 94th and Racine, and I got into an environment that was unfamiliar to me, I grew up in a way that I was not ready to, but I had to. It was very necessary. I thought having a child at a young age was something that was going to change me. But no, having to raise that child without family support, without anyone holding my hand, was definitely a challenge. And that's what you read about in The Growth of Me.
So would you say that that was a turning point for you, or the pivotal moment, and when you said, you know what? I can no longer turn back the hands of time. I have to grow. It's either do or die at this moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How challenging as a single mom would you say? What are some of the keys or the tips that you would give single mothers? Because a lot of times, most times in this day and age, in this era, we're having children before we're ready. And we have to give another human being something that sometimes we ourselves do not have. Speak to that point.
Wow. You know, one of the things that I would definitely say to a lot of single mothers, or just single parents in general, is raise that child as if it's just you. Create a plan that says, I am all I have. Expectations are the root of all heartache. And when we expect people to be there for us, we kind of let ourselves down. And I'm not saying that people won't be there for you. But what I'm saying is when they are there for you, it's a plus.
That's good.
It's a blessing. So raise that child as if it's you and that child, as if every lesson that that child learns depends on what you put into it. And when you do that, you work harder.
That's good.
You don't give up. You don't stop. Because in your mind, you've convinced yourself that this is what it is. This child depends on me. This child's future depends on me. What I do next depends on my child's future. You know, it's affected by what I do next. So that's one of the biggest things that I would say. The other thing that I would say is create goals, you know, for yourself.
Okay.
If your desire was just to, you know, be a mom, be a great mom today. Because being a mom is cool, but when you be a great mom, that means you're going to go above and beyond. You
That's
know,
good.
You're going to make sure you check homework. You're going to make sure you show up for parent-teacher conferences. You're going to make sure that they have manners. They say please and thank you, that they clean up after themselves. You know, it's different. Anybody can have a child. Anybody can have a child. But when you become a parent,
that's good.
It's a very different ball game.
You know, it reminds me of something Steve Harvey said. He said, you know, why be ordinary? He said, you have to go the extra mile. If you want something, if you really want something, you have to go the extra mile. And then you're putting that extra on top of the ordinary.
Absolutely.
And that's what creates extraordinary. And you can be an extraordinary. I think so many times we think as parents, that's not something that we can be proud of. And that's just as important as being a therapist or a doctor or a teacher, because we're raising other children.
Yes,
we're raising
absolutely.
individuals. You're a single mom. You've gone through trauma as a child yourself. But then you become this amazing therapist helping other people. Still without giving us too much. How did that transition come about? Because so many times we feel like we're good, but not good enough to maybe help someone else. Because a lot of people say, well, what qualifies me to, and then fill in the blank. When did you know that you had, as my grandmother used to say, have the goods to be able to help other people?
When I started going through and getting through.
All right.
Sometimes we go through things and we get stuck.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Very
but
true.
I always say that, you know, God has always looked out for me because he's always found a way for me to get through.
That's good.
And when I came out on the other side, I was like, oh, I got to tell somebody else how to get through. I got to Tell somebody
good.
else how to get through and get on the other side.
That's
because
good.
they may not know. But I had to grow up first because my delivery of that was not the best, which you will read about.
Okay.
And I had to be taught how to teach other people to get to the other side without judgment, without making them feel like their choices were just bad, and without making them feel like if they have a relapse, they can't start over.
That's good.
That's where the education comes in. So then I kind of put the two together, personal, professional.
And the rest
And
is
here we
history.
are, right.
Okay, so tell us, first of all, how can we purchase a book? If we wanted an autographed copy, where we can find you, because I know you are touring right now.
I am, yes, I am.
And as a therapist, what is your focal point as a therapist? Is there certain, because someone may want to reach out to you because they've been able to identify with you and some of the things that you've gone through. They may say, you know what, she's a person that I need to speak to.
My specialty is sexual abuse and trauma.
Okay.
So most of the clients that come to me have had some history of sexual abuse or trauma, or some history with foster care, or some history with abuse. I do treat other things, and I hate to say this, but I call them the easy things. The depression, the anxiety. But for the person going through it, it's not easy.
Yeah.
So let me just make that clear.
Yes.
I say it's not as complex as working with a personality disorder or working with an eating disorder of some kind. So I do treat those as well.
Okay.
But my specialty is mainly working with youth and young adults who want to just learn how to cope and deal with the everyday struggles of life.
Wow.
And that may include figuring out how to get over a breakup, figuring out how to deal with a loss of a friendship, figuring out how to deal with a difficult parent who may have mental illness and is undiagnosed. So that's my specialty.
Really good.
Now, for those who want to purchase the book or find out how to sign the book,
Yes.
you can go to my website. It's www.nya it's hyphen B.com. I have to remember that. You can also find the books through my publisher, iUniverse.com.
Okay.
And it's also sold anywhere online. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google. You can get it anywhere online books are sold. If you want me to sign the book.
Yes.
People can actually order them through my website.
Okay.
I will sign them and I will ship them. If you cannot make it to any of the signings, if you can't make it to any of, the tours, and the tours are the best ways to get the book signed.
Yes, because she's absolutely gorgeous. You get to see her in the flesh.
Yes. So those are the best ways to get the book. Yeah, absolutely.
Really quickly, what do you feel was your biggest challenge that you had to overcome to get your books and to the masses, get it out to the masses so that you can help deliver other people?
Wow. Being honest about my issues. That was the greatest challenge, was the transparency, being honest about what my struggles were, being honest about the fact that I struggled with anger, being honest about the fact that I struggled with being emotionally abusive, being honest about the fact that, I wasn't always nice and pleasant to be around. So that transparency, it was my breakthrough. Because now when I'm aware of who I am and how I affect others, then I can prepare myself for environments that may not be the best for me, because I know that's going to trigger me.
This lady right here. I love her. Oh my God, I love her.
So I had to realize what my trauma did to me.
That's so good.
That was the greatest challenge, because none of us want to admit that we're imperfect.
Come on.
None of us. We don't want to say that we're jacked up a little bit. I know me.
Yeah.
I know me.
Yeah.
And I know who and what and where I cannot be. Okay?
That's right. Say that again.
So it was all strategic. Everything I do, it is all a plan. Moving to an area where there's nothing but peace. That was on purpose.
Come on now.
People will say, oh, it's boring where you live. I need boring.
Hello.
I need boring. Marrying a man who is totally different from me on purpose. If I marry someone like me, we'd be dead together.
Not dead together.
War of the Roses. Me and him.
No. Okay.
You know, so, yeah.
Give us a tip to someone who's listening, who's just, they are stuck. They're stuck, and they want to get unstuck. Give them a tip of what they can do, or maybe a first step of what they can do.
Create a list. Start that list off with I am. And just go from there.
Okay.
The first 20 things you are, negative and positive. You and yourself. Just you yourself in that paper, in that list, and you start with I am. Sometimes we want to start with positive affirmations. That's fine. But start with those weaknesses.
That's good.
And once you sit down and look at that list, look at what you can change, what was caused because you did it, and what was caused by what someone else did. If you find that there are things that other people did to you and you're still struggling with it, you have to cross it off.
Okay.
Work on it and let it go. Get you a support system. If there are things on that list that you know you can be responsible for, that you can actually do something about, make a plan to change it.
That's good.
And go from there.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Nya B, she is the lady that you want to know. You have to know her because I think the reason why I resonate with you, and I'm sure that so many millions of people will do with your books and with you, is because you are real.
Oh, thank you.
But you're, even as a therapist, you are still real and giving us practical solutions on how to better ourselves and how to be our best self. You know, they have this song, Living Your Best Life, that's going around.
I love it.
But you're doing that and you're helping so many other people do that. So I thank you for doing so, because you don't even know how you've helped me just in this interview. Oh, yes, ma'am. I can't wait to go home and get my list.
Well, you do that list, girl. Let me know how it works out, because that's what I did.
Give us your contact information again, Nya, and how we can find you, how we can follow you.
You can follow me on Instagram at author_Nya_B.
Oh, you know what? Okay, so for those who are on Facebook,
you can find me on Facebook under Nya B. You can send me an email at nya@nya-b.com. That hyphen is getting to me.
That's okay, because the brother came, the protective brother. There's also the jealous brother, but he got love because he came and he worked it all out. It's all right, Facebook.
Okay.
She's fly. We got her. It's cool.
I got this. My husband here, he got it.
And he got it even more. So she's cool. I thank you so much for being on the Go with me.
It has been such a pleasure.
Oh my God,
love this
you are
interview.
amazing.
I have had a great time.
You are
Thank
amazing. Please make sure that you pick up the book,
Absolutely.
94th and Racine.
Absolutely.
It is The Growth of Me by Nya B, and she's absolutely phenomenal. Wherever she is on social media, please follow her.
Please follow me.
She is real. In this day and age, we need real. Real is what heals the land. And I'm not going to cry because she's just so real. She's what we need. And her books and the testimony of her life is what will set you free. Please follow her. Thank you so much for being on the go.
You.
We are here live at the official book signing for Nya B. She's my new sister. She just doesn't even know it. You're listening to On the Go with Tiffany Patton. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
24 Grill, located inside the Western Book Cadillac Hotel in Detroit, presents a casual approach to fine dining. For more information, call 313-964-3821 or visit the website at 24grill.com.
Good evening, everybody. I am author Nya B, and I want to say thank you for coming out to support my second stop on this book tour. I'm really having a good time. I'm enjoying the ambiance, so thank you for coming out. So some of you may have never heard of me. Some of you may know of me as Dennis's sister. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'm from the South Side of Chicago. I am a therapist, and I am also a speaker. And I have been writing since I was in 4th grade. It's my therapy. That's how it started out. It's just me writing or just creating stories because it was my getaway. But then as I got older, I started to just write about me, the real life stuff, because that's what made sense. And so as I started to write and journal and just keep documents of everything that I've been through, everything I've gone through, I decided that, maybe it was time for me to put it in a book because maybe there are people out there who can relate. So why should you read about me? What makes me so special? What makes me so important? Well, if you like transparency and you like talking to someone who's been through some things and got through some things, that's the first reason why you should get to know me, because I am her. I am that woman who's been through some things, got through some things, and I have no problem sharing it with you. The second reason is because when it comes to clinical skills and when it comes to teaching others how to kind of get out of their own way, that's also my specialty. I've been practicing therapy for about 15 years now. And I've been in private practice for 7 years now. And I have seen so many people have breakthroughs. And a lot of times they struggle having breakthroughs because they can't find a clinician that they can relate to. So they come to me and they have their breakthroughs and they go on with their lives and they finish all of those things that they've always wanted to complete. That's another reason why you should get to know me. The third reason why you should get to know me is because I'm an inspiration. I inspire people to be their best them they could possibly be. I mean, how could you not be inspired after hearing some of the things that you're probably going to hear in this book tonight, after reading some of the things that you might read in book 1, and see the woman that I am now? Some people say, hey, I didn't know that I had this issue, and then I talked to you, and now I'm inspired to go on and do this and do that. So I've been told I'm an inspiration. Now, about tonight, my purpose for the book, my main goal is to teach people how to get out of their own way. So many times we go through things, we have experiences, and we are so quick to blame someone else for what happened. The truth of the matter is, yes, people have hurt us, people have done things, but it's not their responsibility to heal us, okay? It's our responsibility to heal ourselves, and that's what you'll read about when you read The Roots of Me and the Growth of Me. The other thing that's important about this book is that it's very honest and it's very raw. Sometimes people are not honest about their struggles and they're not honest about what they've gone through. But you'll read in The Growth of Me, I was very honest about my shortcomings and very honest about the way I treated people or the things I used to say to people or just even the things I struggled with when it came to my anger or even my being emotionally abusive, because I can be and have been emotionally abusive in my day. I'm not that old, but in my day, I was. So, a little bit about the book. This is a 3-part series. The first part was released in 2012 of March, and it's The Roots of Me, and it's also on sale tonight for those of you who've never heard of it, who's never read it. It's very crucial to really understanding the growth of me. The third part, I'm hoping I will work on that sometime in 2019, and it'll be available to you guys by the end of next year. That's my goal. But it's a 3-part series about a young girl named Corey, me, growing up on the south side of Chicago, and she struggles with her relationship with her mother. And in that relationship, she finds ways to be a little bit more manipulative, taking advantage, because her mother kind of struggled with some mental health issues, and she's self-medicated with alcohol. And sometimes that was a painful thing for Corey, but then sometimes that was a cool thing for Corey, because she knew that she kind of had this freedom, and then nobody would kind of check for her, or as long as she stayed smart, went to class, did what she was supposed to do, nobody would ask about this other part of her. That other part of her ultimately led her to becoming a teen parent. She got pregnant, and she had her first son at the age of 15. And she realized that she was either going to keep this trace going, because in her family, teen parenting was an issue. Her mother had her first son at 15, and then her grandmother had her first daughter at 17. And so I had to decide, do I want to keep this curse going? And I call it a curse because, usually what we don't realize is that things that start from the top, it trickles down. we start to think that it's okay because the person before me did it, so and I turned out okay. Well, you think you turned out okay, but to the rest of the world, you're struggling. But within your own zone and within your own culture, you're okay because everybody else thinks it's okay. And that's how these curses keep going and going and going, and before you know it, you have a whole family of people doing the same thing, and they don't think anything's wrong with them. So I had a choice to make. What do I want to do differently? Do I want to finish school? Do I want to have a son who finishes school? What do I want to do? Now, if you read The Roots of Me, in that book, it was more than just having a child. I had a child with the wrong person as well. So those things come together and create a very tough situation. More so than just me being a teen parent and not having the support that I thought that I should have. I had a child by someone who ended up spending a great amount of time in prison. So then that left me a single mom, trying to raise a son, growing up on the south side of Chicago. That was not going to happen. I didn't see that happening, although it was destined for that to be that way because everybody before me had done it and they thought, hey, well, you can do it too. I just didn't think that was okay. So I had to figure out my first struggle, which was, I got to tell somebody what I'm going through if I want to do something different. Now, if you grew up in a household like I did, the number one rule is what goes on in this house stays in this house, right? I had to break that rule. And I knew that breaking that rule meant betraying my family. And some people, they don't like to betray their family, so they stay in the hood. Because they don't want to be that one who tells the secrets or says something that they shouldn't have said. I had to challenge myself to be that first person to go and tell somebody what I was going through. And in that, opened up a whole range of doors for me. I was given opportunities that I didn't even know that was available to me, and I took them. And I knew that ultimately taking them would change my life forever. It would change my relationships with people, primarily my mother. It would change everything. So I left Chicago. I utilized those resources and I left Chicago, and that's where this book comes in, The Growth of Me. Now, when you're in an environment full of people doing the same thing, and although you may feel a little uncomfortable, but it's all you know, you're going to really challenge yourself when you get into a world of everybody doing something different from you, right? So when I left Chicago and moved downstate Southern Illinois, so I leave from a predominantly black area where there's, people expressing themselves in a different kind of way. Now, I had to go from being aggressive to assertive. That's a transition for those of you who don't know the difference. Aggression is communicating with the intent to hurt somebody. And assertiveness is getting your point across where the two of you can walk away satisfied. And then there's the flip side of that is passive, where you've kind of told someone, hey, your feelings are more important than mine, so I'm just going to stand down. I was never, ever, ever passive in life. Ever. It was either my way or it wasn't going to happen at all. So when I had to leave, I had to learn that you can't just bully people into doing what you want to do. You can't just tell people this is what it is and this is how it's going to be, and if you don't like it, I'm going to kick your ass. I couldn't do that, but that's what I was doing on the south side of Chicago. So when I decided I wanted to get an education in a predominantly white area, they wasn't having it. So I had to decide, what do I want? I had to change. And with that change came a lot of hurt and pain and a lot of gut-wrenching honesty that you will read about in The Growth of Me. Not only that, but I was raising a son. So I had to ask myself, do I want to teach him to be aggressive? Do I want him talking to people like this? Do I want him to always have an attitude? Or do I want to teach him how to compromise and how to, say, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on your foot. Not, well, your foot shouldn't have been in the way. I had to ask myself, how do I want to teach him to communicate? So I had to change first because I knew that he was watching me. And through all of that, I had to basically grow up. It took me a while, but I finally got it. And once I mastered it, I decided I wanted to teach other people, and that's what made me decide to become a therapist. Because it wasn't just going from being aggressive to being assertive that I had to transition to. I also had to learn how to be just a better woman, how to be a better friend, how to communicate, how to tell someone that they hurt my feelings without abruptly just cutting them off. Because I was good at just cutting people off. And I couldn't do that continuously. That was no good. That was no good at all. So in the growth of me, you will learn and you will read about all those transitions, not just with friends, not just with family, but even in my love life. I made a lot of bad decisions. One of the things that people don't realize is that trauma has its effects and it's real. When you repeatedly go through something over and over and over again, it has its effects. And that includes verbal and emotional abuse. That includes being called out of your name. That includes being hit, kicked, or punched unwanted. That includes people leaving and walking out of your life. Abandonment is a thing. And what I didn't realize was I had some serious abandonment issues growing up. And not so much as, begging someone to stay with me. I had the gift of goodbye. It was, I could hurt your feelings, and then if you say, hey, you know what, you really hurt my feelings, or you really upset me, it'd be like, okay, bye. See you later. Because I just didn't want to deal with having to say, I'm sorry. Or having to say, you know what, you're right, I really did hurt your feelings, and that was not okay of me. So in the growth of me, I had to strip myself and humble myself in a way that was very painful, but it was very rewarding, because now I can do that, and I can make sure that I don't have to say I'm sorry, because I'm going to work hard not to hurt your feelings. That's growth, that's maturity, and you all read about that transition in book 3. But in book 2, it was not that easy, right? It was not that easy. I didn't know how to love. I watched my mother love too much. And she used to hurt too much, which is why she's self-medicated with alcohol. And I told myself I would never love anybody that hard, ever. And I didn't. And if I did, it was probably because I got something out of the deal. Not because I truly gave them myself. I never wanted to be with anybody that I couldn't walk away from, because I always felt like that's how you get your feelings hurt. So, and when it came to my abandonment issues, I left you before you could leave me, because I didn't want that pain. I didn't want to deal with the pain my mother dealt with, trying to hold on to people who didn't want to be held on to. So I made you think I wanted you, and then when I decided I didn't, it was time for me to go. You will read about that in this book, those transitions, those struggles. And I finally figured out that it was not the healthy way to be. The reality of it is, when I stripped myself of all of those insecurities and all of that shame and all of that guilt, I found out that love was the one thing that I wanted more than anything in the world. I found out that having somebody with me and being with somebody was one of the things that I really, really wanted more. I realized that the one thing that I was fighting to not have was really me operating with my insecurity. Sometimes we interact with people based on our insecurities. And a lot of times in therapy, when I'm working with clients, I ask them, who's present? You or your anger? You or your anxiety? Who am I talking to right now? You or your shame? You or your depression? Because we can have those things represent us more than we know. Our insecurities can represent us more than we know. So I always say there's self, and then there's that other part. That other part is that defensiveness. That part that steps in, because if you were vulnerable and if you were a part of self, you're afraid you'll get hurt, so you don't operate in self very much. When I was in my 20s, I did not operate in self at all. I was still trying to figure it out. And once I figured it out, it was probably the greatest gift that God ever gave me. So I just want to share it with you guys. Is that okay? All right. So tonight, how we're going to do this is I'm going to call out a page. You guys are going to, well, I'm not going to call out a page. You guys are going to call out a page. That's what's going to happen. You're going to call out a page. I'm going to read it. And then I'll process it with you guys, and I'll give you an opportunity to ask me questions and get more information. So we'll do about 2 or 3 excerpts, depending upon how this night goes. So the first page that I hear, I will read. Now, let me tell you, last week at Chicago's book signing, somebody called out a number that I wasn't prepared to read. So do not call out page 94. Whatever you do, do not call out that page. I'm not reading that page. You have to read that on your own time. But anybody else, okay, any other page, call it out. So I'll take the first page that I hear. That's not going to work either. That's funny. As a group, you guys said 95. That's not right.
I said 29.
You said 29? All right, we're going to go with 29. Y'all a tough crowd. Laugh with the rest of them because social embarrassment can be hard to come back from. The good news is I finally had a new name for myself, the girl who forgot the words. No matter what happened in my life, I tried very hard to remain confident. I never stopped participating in talent shows or participating in events when time allowed it. I tried to show up for my friends when I could and use my talents where they were needed. It wasn't long before others started to realize that I was talented when it came to styling hair. People often wondered how I kept my hair done and who styled it for me. At the time, there weren't many, if any, black hairstylists in the area, so once students realized I did my own hair, I made extra money styling theirs. Before long, no one remembered that I forgot the words. They seemed to be more concerned with other aspects of my life, how I kept my hair done and how I kept my man happy, meaning my relationship. About 6 months passed, and Kyle and I were still hanging on. I didn't get to party very much because my weekends were spent being a mom. Sometimes I'd have Amir and Kyle's son. Kyle, on the other hand, partied a lot, and it almost became one of our biggest problems. Sometimes it seemed he wasn't so innocent either, but I couldn't prove it. I often heard of his animalistic behaviors at the parties, and it really pissed me off. Kyle was handsome, he had a nice body, and for some reason, everyone had to see it. I can't tell you the amount of times we argued about his reckless party behavior. The flirting, hugging every female he saw, taking his shirt off, hopping around, and biting girls on the ass like he was a damn dog. Y'all know what fraternity he was in, right? Cal downplayed it because he was in a fraternity, and the attitude was, that's just what the fellas do. However, it made me feel uncomfortable, and sometimes I wondered if he mistook me for a fool. He laughed at me when I get angry, telling me it was cute. I don't believe he meant to disregard my feelings. I think he believed I had a lot to learn and wanted me to stop taking things so seriously. Whether he was faithful to me or not, I'll never know. However, I did notice that when we worked together, he showed respect, and that went a long way with me. Outside of being a mother, Kyle's girlfriend, and trying to make money, I didn't know what to do. I had friends, but they didn't have children, so they were able to... I need somebody here to turn the page. Experience things that I couldn't. My emotions were getting the best of me, and I felt like I couldn't relate to anyone. There were other parents on campus, and getting to know them wasn't a problem. Most of them were married or had older children. It seemed like very few of them had children Amir's age. Nevertheless, the environment was helpful, and I tried to utilize all of the support I could get. While some parents were very accommodating and willing, there were others who weren't, but wanted me to believe they were. If anyone was to ever tell someone that they became successful without anyone's help, they should be deemed a liar. At this time in my life, I needed and wanted whatever assistance I could receive. Of course, I did things on my own and took the initiative to find jobs and other resources. However, there were the little things like rides to the grocery store or watching a mirror while I washed clothes or just listening to me vent about parenting that meant the most to me. I never meant to bring anyone harm by asking for help. Most of the time, it took a lot for me to even ask. I never wanted to come off as a burden or needy, so sometimes I just went without. I tried to return favors in any way I could, whether that meant babysitting someone else's child or doing a mom's hair for free. Either way, I never wanted anyone to say I used them. So that part of my life, when I first went down to college, you'll learn in The Growth of Me that I met a man 10 years older than I was. And we started to date, and we actually became very serious. And this is something that a lot of young girls go through. They get with older men who may be more experienced, who have been around the block. And I can't tell you their motives. I can only speculate for why older men go for younger girls. But I will say, in that instance, I do believe that he truly loved me and wanted me to grow up and wanted me to learn some things. But I was young, and I was very bored. And I was going through this transition of, do I let someone love me, or am I not ready? The issue was that I was in survival mode. And the reality of it is you can't have a successful, healthy relationship with someone who's in survival mode. If you're at your peak and you're where you want to be, it's hard to be with someone who doesn't even know who they are or don't even know where they want to be. And that's where I was at that place. I didn't know who I was or where I wanted to be. And I didn't even have the support that I thought I needed. So that relationship just was not going to be successful. And it wasn't successful. But I say all that to just say, when you go away and you do something that you've never done before and you're surrounded by people that you don't know, the most important thing is to get to know you before you jump into anything else. Figure out where you fit in or how you can make it work, because if you have nothing to bring to the table, your relationship is going to be based on circumstances. And when you finally get to where you want to be, you might discover, I don't even like this person. I don't even like this person. I want to do something else. And that was the struggle that I had to get through. One of those struggles. Any questions before we do the next reading? I'm laughing at my husband because this is the first for him hearing all of this. He's like, what? Any questions? No? Okay. Call out a page, somebody.
64.
64. There was no amount of money, no pack of cigarettes, no size wing dinners, or no amount of loyalty that would make this man or any man love someone he didn't want to love. I had to hit rock bottom to figure that out. I didn't know if I was coming or going. All I knew was that I was angry all over again. I knew the same despair I felt with Sean was the same despair I felt with William. I needed it to be over. I tried to date other men, and that seemed to help for a little while until I learned that they were on the same bullshit. My patience was dying slowly. William sucked me dry. There was nothing left to give. I had no tolerance. There seemed to be no level of understanding I could come to that would let me be soft again. The summer and fall of 2000 changed my life. The efforts my dad made to help me were short-lived. While I thought he gave me the car to help me, it turned out that the car came with stipulations. The car often stopped on me while idling. If I was at a stoplight or in traffic, the car was bound to cut off. Have you ever had a car stop on you on Lakeshore Drive or Roosevelt? It is the most humiliating shit ever. I needed to get this car fixed, and I didn't have the time to wait. I hated to call William because I really wanted to wean myself off of him, but in my mind, I had no one else. William asked his dad to fix the car, and without hesitation, he did. Despite the asshole William was, his parents were always wonderful towards me. They didn't treat me like the poor choices I made. They treated me like they cared, and that meant everything to me. I recall the time I lost my wallet while shopping at the plaza, and William's mother came to get me. I had no bus fare home, no ID, and despite the short distance, no one on 94th came, yet she was there. Those moments stuck with me. One fall night, I called my dad to let him know that the car had some problems, but it got fixed. I thought he'd be happy to hear that his daughter was resourceful. It was the total opposite. He became very upset about it. Later that evening, I went outside to go for a drive, only to learn that the car had been taken. When I called my dad to tell him that the car wasn't there, he admitted that he came to get it, because he said he didn't like the idea of someone doing repairs on his car. I was confused. I didn't understand his logic, and I wasn't about to try to. Like I mentioned earlier, the fight in me was fading. I took the money I saved up and bought another car with no strings attached. It was a royal blue 97 Cavalier. I was excited, broke again, but excited. It was my first real car. No one gave it to me or let me borrow it. It was mine. I had a car note to pay, but my peace of mind was priceless. Moving towards independence was the push I needed to feel better about how my life was going. I spent time with my friends to cope. Jackie proved to be about as crazy as I was, for she condoned all of my mental breakdowns. I suppose we all have that one friend that approves our insanity. Jackie was that person for me. If I wanted to ride down on William, she was the passenger. If I wanted to tear up his shit, she handed me the tools. If I refused to curse him out, she did it for me. She was my validation. Regardless of what poor decisions she and I made apart from one another or together, we never judged one another. She wanted me to be great, and I wanted it for her all the same. So, about that part. Older men were like my thing when I was younger. Yeah. And some would say it was because I had daddy issues. I don't know. And it's 2018, and I guess the jury's still out on that. Do I have daddy issues? Do I have daddy issues? No, but I always wanted to feel protected. And older men was a sign of protection for me. And that was very important because when you fight all of your life, like I fought all the time. When you read the first one, you'll learn this girl fought all day, every day. I was always fighting. And I think I got to a point where I was just tired of fighting. You know, you ever just get to a point where you're just like, okay, what you said. If you heard I said it. Just go. You know, I got to that point. And I think that was the one thing that kept me involved with someone who really didn't love me, but I was convenient for him, but he also took care of me, if that makes sense. So even in the symbolism of him fixing the car and then my dad coming to get it, you think that he'd be happy. Like, oh yeah, my daughter, she took, time and got the car fixed that I bought her. And then he came to get it. And so I'm like, this is why I do what I do. Because depending on people was something that I needed to do but couldn't do. And so I kind of had to get help when, where, however I needed. But it built up a lot of resentment in me. I always could depend on, no matter what, my female friends. You will also read about that in the first book. They were my rock, and they still are my rock. They are still my rock. Jackie, though, was everything to me. I'm getting choked up because you'll also read about that relationship in the book. She was everything to me. And she made sure that I was good all of the time, whether it was because of somebody hurting my feelings or because somebody wanted to jump on me. She was right there all the time. And I had to figure this out. If you need $1 from someone and they can only give you 25 cents, it is your responsibility to get that 75 cents. And be okay with the fact that they can only give you a quarter. My friends gave me that 75 cents. While sometimes I felt like, and I'm not saying this is true, but I felt like my family and the men I dated only gave me a quarter. So I did not invest so much of myself into those relationships. In my 20s. That was back then. Let me clarify that. That was a long, long time ago, right? Long time ago. We're going to go with that. That was the first sign of growth for me, when I stopped being mad at people who could not show up for me and give me what I needed. Because sometimes people can't give you what you need because they don't have it for themselves to give it. So I stopped being mad about that. It is what it is. I resourced everything. I figured out, okay, well, you can't do this, then I'm going to go over here and get that from them, and I'm not going to be mad at you about it. That was the first sign of growth. The second sign of growth I had was stop letting people be there for me that I know I don't want to be there for, that I'm not going to reciprocate it for. If I know that I'm not going to be there for you in that way, or that I'm not interested in you in that way, then I'm not going to utilize you in that way. And I know it sounds, a little weird because they say you're always supposed to accept some help, but you got to be careful about the type of help that you accept. Because sometimes you accept some help and you are stuck with somebody that you don't want to be stuck with. And you have to explain that betrayal to them or just go ghost. And I'm not interested in going ghost. Remember I told you earlier, passive was just not my thing. So I would have to have been honest and just say, I don't want your help. I don't want you to be there for me because I know I cannot do that for you. Y'all sad conversations are killing me over here. Seriously.
You don't interrupt two men when they talk.
That's my daddy's son. By the way. That's my daddy's son right there. Goodness. But as a woman, though, it's important and it's very crucial to be careful of the help that you accept. Be careful of the people that you allow into your circle. Because sometimes their spirit can tag on to your spirit, and it can be draining. It can be draining. I learned that in my 20s. You wouldn't know it, but I learned that in my 20s. You know how many people struggle with that even in their 30s and 40s? But I learned that in my 20s because it wore me down. Like I said, I didn't want to be bothered with William, but I had to call him and ask him for a favor. Have y'all ever had that happen? Where you really don't want to be bothered with somebody, but you're like, damn, I got to call this. And that's what I went through. And then I felt like, then I felt like I was indebted. Have you ever felt emotionally indebted to somebody or something? I felt indebted. And when you feel indebted to someone and you really don't want to be indebted to them, that can kill your growth. It can stunt your growth, ridiculous. Because you start to have this resentment and this anger, this misplaced anger, and you become passive-aggressive. And you don't want to be bothered with that person for real. You roll your eyes every time they call you, and it's like, but you asked for that favor. And so now you're like, well, I got to be nice. I got to talk to them because they did this and this and that for me. You're not being true to yourself. Be true to yourself. That's the first part of transparency. And that's what I mean by, it's not such a bad thing when I don't want your help. Because I'm not going to be there for you in that way. I'm not going to be that person for you in that way. And it's okay to do that. And it's okay to say that. So, I'll leave it up to you. Do you want me to do another reading? Or you guys want to mix and mingle, buy some books, sign some books? What do you want to do?
I have a question.
Yes.
You talked about Jackie, right?
Yes.
Are you and Jackie still friends?
Jackie died.
Oh.
Yeah. And you'll read about that in the book, too.
Oh, I hate you said that.
I was trying not to say it, but spoiler alert, Jackie. Edric asked, so I had to be honest.
Thank you, I appreciate it. You could have just told me I could have
Well, sorry, guys. Any other questions? You got a question?
You always leave you home.
Any comments you want us to hear?
No, ma'am.
Well, do you still have a relationship with your dad?
Oh, yeah. I do. I do have and you know what? It's a very mature relationship. Like, we are really, I would say my dad is a really good friend of mine these days. And he is. He is just another version of Dennis. Or Dennis is another version of him, shall I say.
But if he hadn't taken that car, how long would it have taken you to become that independent woman and go out and get your own car?
You know what? I don't know. It probably would have taken me a lot longer.
Right.
But I truly, definitely, and I totally agree with you there, that a lot of things happened to prepare me for that next thing. And that's why I said I had to stop being mad at people when they could only give me a small portion of something, because it just helps me get to that next level, which was ultimately how I learned to stop being mad at my mother. You know, she did the best she could for the resources she had. She was a whole woman before she decided to be a mother. And before we become parents, we are people. We have feelings, we have heartbreak, we have sadness. And my mother had that going on, and she just had children in the process. So I had to just stop being mad at her, too, and say, you know what, Mom, I forgive you. Things happen.
And it's all part of growing up.
And it's all part of growing up, which is why the book is titled The Growth of Me. Yes.
So did Jackie's, now I know that you and Jackie's relationship was great, but did Jackie's death change you in any way? Because I know death can do one or two things. You can either learn from that death and soar, or either that death can just take you down to a pipe hole that you don't need to be in and you can't get out.
Well, I'm going to follow Idrik's lead on this and say read the book.
Okay.
Because then I would have way too many spoiler alerts. So, yes, read the book to find out what that did to me.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions? Yes.
So you and your dad, that situation about him not wanting somebody else to work on his car. Did you as a parent or anywhere in your growth ever learn what that was about or have some sort of idea?
A man's ego. That's the only thing that was about.
That's a woman's answer.
No, I think.
That's the right answer.
No, I'm just killing. I'm just tripping. So the reality of it is, my dad, for years, and I didn't realize this until I was older, he was stripped of doing things for me for like the first 16, 17 years of my life. So when he was able to do something for me, and I took that from him, it made him upset. Now, I didn't figure that out until later. But at the time, I was like, he is selfish as all get out. I was definitely like, who does this? He's controlling, you know. That was my immature thinking of saying, oh, he was. Sometimes we just don't know what's on the other side of that. But I figured it out.
It's not just the male's ego.
It's not just the male's ego. Y'all like to feel needed too. And now I realize that was important. My dad, my brother, my husband, they all like to feel needed. So I make up stuff for them to do. No.
Make up stuff.
Okay, any other questions?
Can you read one more excerpt?
One more excerpt? Okay, somebody throw out a page number. 12. All right. Coming out of the room to show my face once it was all over stirred up quite the laugh. It seemed his roommate enjoyed my sense of humor and my ability to take a joke. I liked being able to laugh. Similarly, I actually liked Kyle, and after that night, I hoped he'd be someone I could keep around. Shortly after I spent the night with Kyle, he did what any man who just wanted to have sex would do. He stopped calling. I didn't quite know how to respond to this because it never happened to me before. I didn't know how to feel because there was no attachment. Similarly, for Kyle to go absent didn't make sense because I knew we'd see each other on the campus, and then what? I called him several times over the weekend, and there was no answer. It was in that moment when I realized that I had been played. I was sort of disappointed, but if there was anything I was accustomed to taking by now, it was a loss. So I just moved on. 3 days passed, and Kyle finally called me back. I didn't have caller ID, but I knew that very few people had my phone number, so I picked up. Hello, I answered. Are you mad at me? He asked. Trying to play it cool, I responded. Mad at you for what? Kyle laughed hysterically at my response and said, don't act like you weren't going crazy because I didn't call you. I'm sure I'm every asshole in the book right about now. It was apparent his arrogance spoke louder than he did over the phone, so immediately this became a game. I was worried about you. I didn't know what happened, so yeah, I called you a few times. Glad to hear that you're okay. What's up? I nonchalantly responded. I had a family emergency this weekend. I apologize for not getting back to you, but I'm back on campus now. Let's have dinner, he asked. I was skeptical at first to accept his offer because I wasn't sure if his reason for not calling was true. However, I did make note that neither one of us had a mobile phone. Since we met, our only methods of communication were face-to-face or landline. It was very possible that he really didn't have a way to contact me, so I agreed to see him again. A couple of months passed, and Kyle and I were getting close. We spent almost every day together, and this was beginning to look a lot like a relationship. It was a relationship. Kyle was a dear man. He was the first man who actually took care of me. He did things that made me believe I could depend on him. If he came to visit, he brought groceries. If he ate food, he replaced it. If I needed a ride somewhere, he made a way for me to get there, even if he had to rent me a car. If he didn't like my clothes, he bought new ones. Yes, Kyle changed my look. So, and that it will. Matter of fact, if y'all want to read the blog, because that's about his butt too, please do. It's called the-nya-b.com. Check it out. Oh, so during this time of my life, it was my first year of college. I had just met Kyle, which was the older guy that I mentioned earlier. What I learned from that man that I really didn't appreciate until now was that when a man really wants you, he will pursue you. Period. There is nothing ambiguous about it. You don't have to figure out, wonder, send smoke signals. You don't have to do any of that. He will let it be known, and he will pursue you. He will tell you what it is, and he will go for it, and he will do it. Like I said, I didn't appreciate that because I was too young to even understand what that was about. I was in survival mode, and he was in, hey, I am a man, and I want you, so let's do this mode. And I took advantage of that. Now, the other thing, that started as a one-night stand. And when a lot of young girls just go to school or do whatever they do, sometimes one-night stands happen. And that happened to me. Now, this was also the first time I had had a one-night stand and nobody called me back. That was new. So my ego was a little crushed. And I was prepared to act like it didn't bother me. That was really big for me in my early 20s, acting like nothing bothered me. And when you do that, it's called avoidance. And what happens when you ignore emotions and you put them aside and you act like they don't matter? They come back with a vengeance. And when they do, they will control you and take over you, and you will not be the same person. You don't even know what happened. But that's what happens when you just kind of tuck stuff aside. I'm fine, I'm good. I don't care. It doesn't matter. That was my thing. It don't matter. I don't care. But the reality of it is I cared. I cared a lot. A whole lot. But I didn't tell anybody I cared until I was like 28. That's when I decided to say, I actually give a damn. I do care that you did not call me back. I do care that you did not respond to that text. I do care. That was like liberating. Liberating, very liberating. So what I've mastered at this point in my life is surrounding myself with people who care about me just as much as I care about them. So I won't ever feel like there's this emotional deficit. So I won't ever feel slighted. So I won't ever feel like I got played. That's a key part to growth, is surrounding yourself with people who want what you want, who feel like you feel. Anything other than that, anything different from that, you're playing yourself. And I had to learn that the hard way. But I did learn it. So thanks for letting me share it with you guys tonight. I appreciate that.
That was a few excerpts from 94th and Racine. We are here live wrapping up the official book signing for NYA B. 94th and Racine, The Growth of Me by NYA B is definitely something that you want to pick up. This is a perfect stocking stuffer for the holiday season. Get yourself free with NYA B. This has been On the Go with Tiffany Patton. Your link to Love, Life, and Liberty right here on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and iTunes. Until next time.